I think this just exposes some of the players for what they really are. This goes back to your previous manager and his talent ID signing some of these players because we know he was heavily involved in a lot of them. I don't think there is any players today who had like an amazing game or anything. The one guy I actually think was a little bit creative in the front line was Diallo. I think he was very good creatively, created the goal as well, and was always. Thing is with Diallo, he was always playing passes in the penalty box, but there was no real runners in there, which he needed more of, because if someone were just running into the box, it made the scoring opportunities a bit easier. I think Forest were there for the taking today. This isn't the Forest that we saw at the start of the season, or even the Forest that we saw at Anfield. This wasn't like unbelievable. Wow, Forest were incredible. I think it was just like kind of unforced errors and forced errors, and Man United just kind of creating their own downfall with mistakes, with individual players. Terry called it sabotage. I don't really disagree with that a lot, to be honest with you. I think some of these players are just rubbish, to be honest with you. And today it shows it. And I think no manager can fix this. I last year defended Garnacho to Staffy, and I told him, listen, Garnacho is a good finisher at least. But now I think this season, since the start of the season, he's been one of the worst players. I thought Højlund, for me, had a good game in my opinion, but the rest of the team, like all the midfield, barring maybe Ugarte stopping a counter-attack here and there, Mainu was a bit off it because he just came back. Bruno had his worst game in a while, that's why he got subbed. The defense as well, I feel like they allowed Chris Wood and Morgan Gibbs-White and Callum Hudson-Odoi, when they were really playing like those triangles, they allowed them way too easily to run in behind, way too easy to get involved, and that should be worrying signs going forward, because today you had the three center backs that you would assume would be the three stars.
But do you know what? Just on that is what I want to say. But this is what happened. The first half, they scored their goal, which they shouldn't have been allowed to. Lissandro standing there, no pressure, shouldn't have happened. Between then and the end of that whistle in the first half, Forest did nothing. So in the first half, they weren't playing through us with ease. They weren't cutting through the midfield. They created nothing. They had 6 shots, but it's where they would go long. They'd cut it back and it'd be a P roller or it'd fly wide. They obviously hit again where we were looking vulnerable today was set pieces. So they had a set piece to go over. All their shots came from set pieces. One of them hits the crossbar, to be fair, but everything came from set pieces. And so one thing that we haven't really spoke about on the show that needs fucking focus quickly.
Yeah.
And second half starts. We make a mistake. The wind puts the ball into the back of the net, and obviously a joke, people, right? And that happens, and then we went through like a 10-minute period. We conceded again where they were cutting through us with these. We lost our heads. We looked like the Ten Hag Man United, where everybody's fucking up. We can't pass the ball anymore. We're caught out of shape. Then we kind of settled, started playing football again, scored. Forest did nothing again for the rest of the game because we can. Now they're winning, so they're going to sit back behind the ball. And by the way, I don't care how salty this sounds. The last 20 minutes was the part of the game that I actually thought they deserved credit for, because they made their changes. They were hard to break down. They gave us very little space, and they frustrated us, as an example. Outside of that, I don't even feel like they deserve their first 2 goals in terms of it wasn't like brilliant play. Even the cross and the Chris Woods, it was an overhit cross that Chris Woods kind of was leaning back and it up in the air. That should never go in.
That was a good cross. You didn't think that was a good cross?
Well, it's an overhit cross because Chris Woods has to run backwards and jump backwards to hit it. There's no power on it. It should never have gone in. A good cross is where it's meeting a
slow motion header.
A really good cross, theoretically, is where it comes in, and the ball and the attacker are meeting at the same time for the power. Okay. The attacker has to go backwards. Yeah, I'm not saying it was an awful cross. I just don't think it was like, oh my God. Because every now and then you get a cross against your team and you go, fuck all we could have done about that. The header or it's a bullet header and you're thinking, shit, nothing we can do. For me, that's where I'm annoyed today, because people will focus. I'm seeing Lenny Yoro get shit. Of course, rivals want to jump on him because they want to try and sabotage and hurt and damage the confidence of a really talented young player. But actually, what we should be focusing on.
Rivals, they had a bad game today. It's okay to say it. Like, there's nothing wrong with
who?
Yoro had a bad game.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think
that's not an insult. Like, he had a bad game. It's okay.
Again, so when you say he's had a bad game, when you say he's had a bad game, break down why he was bad today, so I understand what you mean by that.
I think he was caught out of position a couple of times. I think when Callum Hudson-Odoi pressed against him, he wasn't aggressive enough when Callum Hudson-Odoi specifically was running at him, he wasn't aggressive enough. And I don't think overall, in general, in the game, he was aggressive enough in today's game to try put a tackle in, to try get
I
involved.
agree.
And Sunshine, who's a Man United fan, agrees as well. So it's not an agenda.
100%
I don't
agree.
think you can claim any of your centre-backs had a good game today.
100%.
I didn't say anyone had a good game. I'm trying to understand why it was poor. Saying not good,
Terry,
I get,
All
but
three of them
poor is,
are poor.
but
Terry,
poor
to
is.
add to Ossam's point, because I agree with
Considering
Hossam
we
massively.
didn't, considering, but let me, I want to ask a question. So I'm trying to understand the difference between. I'm not saying very good. I'm not saying brilliant. I'm not saying I had a great game. Poor for me is like, I would say Onana was poor today. So I'm trying to understand the distinction here.
Yeah.
Because if, barring the 2 mistakes that led to goals, they didn't cut through us, they didn't create any clear-cut chances, they didn't penetrate. I don't see how the defensive line in the system at large was poor.
For me, Paul would be like a 4 out of 10. I'll be honest.
When?
Right, and I would give him a 4 out of 10.
During the game, they cut through you.
And did what?
Even on the ball. I spoke the triangles, the Gibbs White, the
I was asking Sunshine. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah.
Just talking at the same time.
So it's again, including for what Hussam's. And by the way, I have to start by saying I'm not saying this is like, oh my gosh, he was absolutely terrible. I'm saying poor in the sense of I thought he was a 4 out of 10. Even on the ball in the first half, the amount of times that the striker and the midfielders were opening up in midfield to turn. After goals, again, Bruno, the first goal we scored when he played it onto Ugarte, that was a through ball that broke the press, turned it, flicked it to Ugarte, we were straight through. That pass was on more often than not. I don't know if people were focusing on that. I don't know. Go and watch the game back. From the first half to the second half, the amount of times he was going backwards with the pass, inviting pressure when that first ball was on. He was indecisive for me on the ball most of the time. That's not me saying he's crap. That's just an observation of the 90 minutes that he played.
Okay.
That is it. And I'm just simply saying
so
that
more on the ball, you're saying he was poor today in terms of where he was feeling
and that's as well as agreeing with Don in terms of the aggression. I don't think he was aggressive enough. I think he was just indecisive in his decisions, and that's what made him less aggressive, and that's what made him not be confident when he's making the passes. I hope he can improve that moving forward. So when I say poor, I'm not saying he was poor as in, oh my gosh, he was terrible, get him out of the team. I'm just saying as an honest observation, objectively speaking, I don't think he was up to the standard, what we agree. But it is his first game, so I'll give him a blight.
So I can accept what both of you have said there. The reason I'm asking questions, I'm trying to understand. When I think of a defender being poor, I think about what Lissandra did today. Not challenging for a header that they should have done, not clearing the ball off the line, getting twined up, twisted.
Kyle Walker today versus
Kyle Walker. Yeah, that when I think of a defender being poor, that's what's in my head. So I'm just trying to understand the distinction that we all, because that's the problem with a lot of football analysis, especially on the toaster channels, is people just say things and everyone goes either agrees or disagrees, but no one ever asks for the distinction about what you mean. I can accept your opinions, and that's fair.